Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're learning Masechtas Gittin, Daf Pei Gimel. We are going to begin on Pei Gimel Amud Aleph by the two dots, about 7 or 8 lines from the top. Tanurabana. L'achar petiroso shel Rabbi Lezer. So after Rabbi Lezer's passing, nichnaso arba zakenim l'hashiv al devarav. There were 4 zakenim that came to discuss his words. Elohim Rabbi Yosef, Guli Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Lezer ben Azar, Rabbi Kiva. So then Rabbi Tarfon Yomer. Hare shahal chazu. If you have a situation where you have this particular woman that came, and Rashi says after she got divorced, v'nises lit achiv, and she ends up marrying the brother. Says Rashi shal osai ish. This man shenesra begarishin, because she was divorced. However, as we mentioned yesterday's daf, it's possible that it's still a get, even though he said you're harav v'tesach haladam, except for this guy. So in that situation, let's say she married the brother of the guy she was usher to. So in that situation, let's say now she dies without children. Now, because of the condition that the original husband made, that you're usher to this man, so now that she was married to his brother and that brother died, now she's zakak l'yavam, she's a chiyuv to do yibum with the brother, but there was an isser because of this. We see that he's being oiker the mitzvah of yibum, because now she's not allowed to do yibum with this guy. Says Rashi, Hamor b'Torah shel amar Torah krisos ha'ikr davar min Torah. So Rabbi Lezer must be incorrect, and the din is it's not a get. Otherwise, she can't do the yibum to the man who was the chutz, the one who was excluded. So it's very interesting, by the way, that this whole discussion, the questions, only took place after Rabbi Lezer's passing. Wouldn't it have made more sense while he's alive? He could have asked them these questions directly. But nonetheless, they said, there's a reason why l'chayra he was incorrect. Because if in fact he would be correct, then this woman would not be able to do yibum. So then Rabbi Yosef Yomi says, where do we ever find a situation where one person is usher, but yet someone is mutter? She's usher to some people, she's mutter to some people. We don't find that. Rather, we find usher l'chol. That when you're usher to someone, you're usher to everyone. So basically, he was saying the reason why Rabbi Lezer is incorrect is because mamanashach. Either if the get is chal, then she should be mutter to everyone. If the get's not chal, she should be usher to everyone. So then Rabbi Lezer ben Azari v'omer krisos davar hakaris min l'mina. When it comes to krisos, it's something which separates him from her. Says, however, this is not separating. Says Rashi, she's still connected to this man because she's still not allowed to do something because of this, her husband. So that's a third problem with Rabbi Lezer. And then Rabbi Kiva Hari says, so let's say she went and married someone else, and she ended up having kids. And she becomes a widow or divorced from that second relationship. The Amda, and she stands up, and Nises Lazesh and Esrolov, and she ends up marrying the guy the original guy that she was divorced from, who made this condition that she marry that guy. So to get batal, we find that the original get, the first get, was never batal to begin with because she did something she wasn't supposed to do. She wasn't supposed to marry him. And now the second marriage from this guy who's already dead, all of a sudden, retroactively, her children are mamzerim because she ended up marrying the guy she wasn't allowed to, based on the stipulation of her first husband who divorced her. So all of these different reasons point to the fact that Rabbi Lezer's statement cannot be correct. Davar acher, hari shahayis zeh shenesolav kayin. Let's say the husband divorced her and says you can't marry this one guy, and the one guy happens to be a kayin. Umeis hamagarish, and the guy died. Lo nimsas almana etzlo ugrusha etzlo kol adam. So it's interesting because now, on some hand, she's like a gerusha, and she's a gerusha, but she's also like an almana, because on some level, she's an almana, and therefore she should be able to marry a kohen. But if the get was chal, then she was like a gerusha, a kavachimer. Ma gerusha shehi kala. When it comes to a din of gerusha, which is we're lenient, asura, she's usher to this kohen b'shil tzad gerushin shaba, because of the notion of her being divorced, because a woman cannot marry a kohen if she's a gerusha. So eishes nishi chamor lo kol shekain. If she's an eishes nish, then certainly it's a problem. Haman teshen zekrisos. So again, we see the whole thing cannot make sense. Says Rashi, Lo amr Torah krisos hamevias Yisrael di psul. Amr hen Rabbi Yeshua ein mashiven es ha'ari la'achar misa. You cannot respond. The lion cannot respond after death. Which is again, it's unbelievable that they would decide to ask all these questions only after he died. Amr b'kul isel hu pircha l'bar Rabbi Lezer ben Azar deleis le'pircha. The truth is, all of these questions, there's a way out of them. However, there is one shita of Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah which seems to be correct. Tanya Mehachi and Rabbi Yossi Royani as Divi Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah Medivi Kula. Okay. Look at question 13. Mahi Hatshuva de Hashiva on Shitas Rabbi Lezer to Mashir Gerushi Chutz Vid Shuva de Leisle Pircha. To be in krisos davar hakuras bein the leveina, which is the shita of Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah. Rabbi Lezer says there's a din of krisos. You have to separate her, completely disconnect. So that is something which there's not going to be an answer to. That was question 13. So Omar, Nanu Rabbi Tarban of Yomer Hari Shahal Chazuvani says La'achim Shel Zushin Esolav Umes V'Lobanim Lonim says that Oikar Demon Torah. So the question is, how is it possible that Rabbi Lezer is correct? What if she ends up marrying the brother of the guy she was usher to? So she's allowed to marry the brother. What happens if afterwards the brother dies? They didn't have children, so now she can't do Yibum. Gemara says, so one name says, Zeh Oikar Devim Torah. So Oikar, Ihu Akar. What do you mean, Akar? He's the one that caused the problems. Ela Masna. How do we allow a condition like Devim Torah? Masna, Mi Karmela. Like, was it she? Like, what? It wasn't her doing. So it's not enough. You're saying she can't marry the brother. Dahu Gavra of this guy. El Garim Akadab. You're causing it's a grumma. Garim. You're saying it's a garim el miyata bas achiv lo yisa. If the whole issue is it's hagrama, because of what he's doing, it's shaykh that it could cause that she won't be able to do yibum. So if that's the case, bas achiv lo yisa, you should never be able to marry your brother's daughter. Your brother's daughter. Why? Which even though halachically you could marry your brother's daughter. But what happens? Well, Yisa, it shouldn't work. Shavi Yomos, Blobanim. What if the guy dies? And obviously now she can't marry the brother because that's her father. That's Taka the Kasha. Because you could always say that. There's always a possibility that if you marry this person and they die, well, then there's an issue of Yibum anyway. So we're not concerned with that. So, Ubamai, what exactly is the Machlokes in our Mishnah? Ilema B'chutz, going back to our Mishnah, when he said, Harmit Hesachal Adam, Ella. What does Ella mean? It doesn't mean accept. So, Mr. Shara, Rabbi Lezer, in that situation, Rabbi Lezer says, it works. The sign Mother Rabbi Lezer, Megarshes Isha, V'yermel Harim, Hesachal Adam, Chutz, if you say Chutz, midpoint, except for this guy, V'hach V'nisas La'achar Men Hashok, she marries someone else. When it's time on the Skarsha, she gets divorced or widowed. She muteres possession esrolov, that she's mutter to the person she's usher to. Ella ba'almanas. It's a case of almanas. Okay. Neder Rabbi Yosef Glili. The Yomer Heichem Etzinu Asur Lazeh Umutu Lazeh. Where do we ever find that someone is usher to one person or mutter to certain people? No, it's either ha'asur asur chol mutter mutter kod. Velo, what are you talking about? You're saying we never find that situation where some people are usher to some and not to others? Vari truma v'kodshim. When it comes to the din of truma, and when it comes to the din of kodshim, so in that situation, and so before we go weiter, let's look at this Rashi. So it was b'chutz Mr. Shel Rebbe Lezer. When she marries someone else, she's completely removed from her first husband. El Balmanas, Mokilo de Kivan de Tanai, who was a condition, was to get Batal Mafreya, become Israel Ish. So there's an issue of Almanas, as we said, that if he said Almanas, even if she would marry the second guy and then gets divorced, she's still not allowed to marry that first guy. Okay. So when it comes to Truma Kachim, says Rashi, Asun Yisrael, we know that Truma Kachim, I am a non-Kohen, I'm not allowed to eat Truma, I'm not allowed to eat Kachim, however, Kohanim are allowed to. So, but no, we're talking about Isser Isha Amrina, we're talking about with relationships. Bahari Rayas, right? Bito, Achoso, your daughter, your sister. No, be Ishus Kamrin. I'm talking about someone who's shaykh to do kedushin with. Hare Ishus Ish. So you can't. She's mutter to her husband. She's usher to others. Hainapir. That's the question. Ubamai. What was this case? The machlokas. Ilim b'almanas. If it was the case where he said almanas hari hutra etzli biznus. Says Rashi, the almanas shlotinasi. The condition is only not to marry this one man, but they are all the same in znus. There's no difference. That this is equally mutter. It's wrong, but mutter is it's wrong, but it's mutter as far as there's no condition Indian to be mavatal to get. Doesn't mean you can be mazana, but it means that it has no shaykhs to the get. El b'chutz has to do with rather chutz. That is the machlokas as Rashi Hukach Parachle Hasha Asal Gamri. She's usher completely Gabel Igrusha. Then Rabbi Kiva Yarmer Harisha Halchazumani says Lechem and Shuk. She marries some guy on the street. The Hayul Abanim and the Sam and the Skarsha. She has children. Let's say her husband dies. The young niece is Lazeshan Asrolov. It turns out retroactively the children are mamzerim because you end up marrying the person who your first husband so you're not allowed to marry. Now, if that's the case, when it comes to any condition, she should never be able to get married for the same reason. Maybe the condition won't be fulfilled. So you're right. So if you would say that logic, then no, you wouldn't be able to never would it get with a Tanai ever work. As we said before, Rabbi Lezer says that if the husband dies, she is now allowed to marry the first guy's person that he answered. The sign, he said except Ploni, she married someone else. And she got, let's say the man died. She would tear this in the law. Okay. Another point that was brought up. Hari Shahaya Zeh. Chinesol of Kayin. The one that was usher to her was a Kayin. Umeis Hamigarish. And then all of a sudden this guy dies. Well, Nimsis Almana Etzlo. We don't find that she's an Almana by him. Right? Garusha et Etzel Kaladam. What do we find? That she's a Garusha for all other people. So think about it. Because he basically said, for everyone, it's a divorce, which means she'd be usher to marry any person who's a Kohen, except for this guy who's a Kohen, which means that for this one guy, it wasn't the divorce, and therefore when he dies, it's considered like an almana. She's like an almana for this one guy, therefore she technically should be able to marry this one guy who is a Kohen. When it comes to Grusha, we're lenient Asura, Mishum Sad Gershin Shaba. She's Asur because a Grusha cannot marry a Kohen. So Eishes Ish Chamor Lo Kol Shekain. In this situation where she's an Eishes Ish over here regarding this Kohen, because she's not allowed to marry this Kohen, So kol shekain should be a problem. Ubama ilim b'bal manas, as we continue to pay gimel midbays. That's the what was said. Sahari garusha etzlei b'znos. As we said before, the same basic question. When it comes to znus, it's identical. El b'chutz. Rabbi Kiva ichutz svirulei, if he holds like chutz, loisav chutz. Yo almanas svirulei loisav almanas. Rabbi Kiva shmilei, he heard diikadar chutz v'ikadar almanas. He heard both ways. Man der chutz high pircha, man der almanas high pircha. Well, my pircha. What's the question? Isser kahuna shani. Maybe Isser kahuna is different. However, Belezer nami Isser kahuna kamaisila. Rava karebiyana mishum zakin echad kamaste. Okay. Amr lehed Rabbi Yeshua ein mashivan es ari acher misa. Once Rabbi Belezer died, now you're going to ask questions. Lememra Rabbi Yeshua kavasi svirle. It almost sounds like he actually holds like Rabbi Lezer, and he's upset that now you're going to start asking questions on Rabbi Lezer. But ihu nami mirfach kaparach, but he also asks questions on him. I know there's a question on my logic. Mihu whether it's me or everyone else. You cannot again start poking the lion, so to speak. The guy is already dead, so the fact is, it's not fair that you're asking questions because maybe he would have had a terrace if he would be alive. So my Pircha Rabbi Yeshua, the son Rabbi Yeshua Makish Koid Me Havoya Shnia Lekoid Me Havoya Rishayna. So it turns out, let's see, Rashi. So Sad Panuya. So Makish Koid Me Havoya Shnia Sad Panuya Shiba Ben Gershon L'Nesuin. There is a side of her being not married between the Gershon and the marriage. Koid says Rashi Koid Me Havu Rishayna. What's Sad Panuya Shahayiba Koid Me Kedushin Sharishay. She was a Panuya before the marriage, and then she was a Panuya during the second time between the divorce and her second marriage. So we make a connection between the when she was a Panuya before she got married and a Panuya afterwards. Before she ever got married the first time. So man, koimi havoya rishayna delo gida beina shachrina. Af koimi havoya shnia delo gida beina shachrina. So this is a question of Rabbi Lezer. Just like when she was a Panuya, right? She's 19 years old, never married before, so she's not usher to anyone. She's not connected to anyone. That's what a Panuya is. So too, this woman should also, as a Panuya, should not be usher to anyone. For the get to be chal, he should not be able to make the stipulation to exclude anyone. That's his question on Rebbe Lezer's Gufa. Mother Belezim Garshi Ishtay. He agrees. Person divorces his wife. The Armel Harman Tersachaladam Chutz Meploini. And he says Chutz. The Halcham Nisas Acham and Ashok when it's Arman Skarsha. She marries another guy, and then subsequently, let's say he dies or divorced. So the din is, since he only used the word chutz, not almanas, since he's only chutz, so the din is that she is mutter to marry the same guy. So Heish Rav Shimon Elazar tshuva with divrei Rav Elazar heichem meisidu shezeh v'zeh mutter v'lo b'har yavama debal oiser v'yava mater. So you can also ask this question, that when it comes to yavama, that the baal oiser v'yava mater, she is usher to the husband, she's mutter to the yavam. The hasam yavam hu dika asirwa. It's the yavam who asers her. Di mebal hamasher v'kaima. If she was actually with her husband, then she would certainly be mutter. Var nidarim denoidir oiser. When it comes to a neder, the chacham mater. You aser, you can go to a chacham to be mater the neder. So Rav Yochanan in chacham mater klum el b'charata. The truth is, the chacham isn't really doing anything. It's him finding out that he had charata on making the neder to begin with. Hari hafaras habal when it comes to the annulment of the husband. The Ishno Deres Ubal Mefer Hasim Krab Pinchas Mishmid Rabbi Yemra Pinchas Mishmid Rabbi Kol Haneres Al Das Baal Hinu Deres. That when a woman makes a neder, it's all connected to the husband to begin with. Now the Rebbe Lezer when Azarvi Amr Krisus, the word Krisus, when it comes to a get, it's a sefer Krisus, it has to be a davar karis bin u'minah, something which completely separates her. Halmate she's a Krisus. So if he said Haryam and Teres Chaladam, and he ends up excluding this guy that she's not allowed to be with, that's not Krisus. On this, Rabbanon High Krisus. So and that's a pircha which that's good. That's a good question, Rebbe Lezer. The Rabbanon High Krisus my yavidule. So what do we do with Krisus? Meboyel G'Sanya, and this we've seen in many places. So if you say that you're never allowed to go to your husband, to your father's house, we're going to divorce you, we can never go to your father's house. You can never drink wine, that doesn't work. If it's for a certain amount of time, that is a krisus. It has to be something which there's nothing which is going to continuously connect her to. The idach, because krisus not the fact that it says krisus. The idach, kares krisus odarshi, they don't make a drasha on the extra us. So when a person says, you can't drink wine all days of my life, that's not krisus. All as long as George down the block is alive, but when he dies, so that is krisus. So why when it comes to this guy George, why is that krisus? Because the dilma mes, because maybe he'll die tomorrow, and the condition will be fulfilled. So if that's the case, say the same thing about the husband himself. All the days that you, my wife, are alive, because that's forever. That's her forever. However, all days of my life, plenty of George, krisus. In that situation, it will work. Okay. Question 14. Tanabam. Acha Petirasa Sherbelezer B'chul. Neder B'Yomer Hechametzinu Asu Zem Matu Zeh. How do we find one person's Asu and Mutter? So Ha'im Rabbi Yosef Glili Mugad Rabbi Lezer Chutz O Balmanas Mahech Zeh. Is he talking about Chutz or Almanas, and how is this a proof? So he says B'chutz, because there's Almanas Hay Hutter Gamu Ploini Biznus. If it was Almanas, she's also mutter biznus, imkain muteras l'cholhi, and therefore she would be mutter to everyone. Okay. Let's continue with question TA 20. Let's start with question TB 22. Nasan get. Okay, we didn't do that yet. TA 22. Armul harmed has a choladam elul ploini. Rabbi Lezer matu choladam chutz moisa ish. Beis oifu materis ba'oisa ish Rabbi Lezer. When would that be allowed? So the answer is imnises acher. As we saw this before a couple times. And let's say that she married someone else, and I'll put as pei gimel and beis, and she ended up marrying someone else. She got divorced. Then she could go back and marry this guy, right? So b'holcha v'nises la'achar min hashuk min hasham nisgarsha shumuteres l'zeh shenesrolav. That is TA 22. All right, let's see the next piece. Says the two dots. B'mini Rabbim Rav Nachman Hayoim. This is your get today. I at ishti, you're not my wife. U'machar at ishti, but tomorrow you'll be my wife. Basically, he's divorcing her for one day. Mahu tibol Rabbi Lezer tibol Rabban. Tibol Rabbi Lezer. It's a question of Rabbi Lezer. Ad kan lo kamar Rabbi Lezer hasam eladaman de kashari oilam. The people that he's mater, when he says Rabbi Chaladam, and he says that's a get, is he's matering everyone. Okay, he's excluding one person, but he's matering everyone, almost everyone forever. Lo, but here it's not forever. It's only for one day. No difference. Dilma, or therefore it is get. Tibol Rabbanan. Ad kan loy kamer Rabbanan. Until here, the Rabbanan who said it does not work. Ad kan loy kamer Rabbanan hasam eldoi paskami neelagamri, because he did not cut her off completely from all people. because he excluded someone. Once he cut them off, even though it was one day, that's it. So it should work. So under the boy. So again, this is going to be TB 22. So boss of the boy Hadar Pashta. After he asked the question, he was able to answer it quickly. As we continue to pay down and off, Mistabra, it's logical. Bein Rebbe Lezer, Bein Rabbanan, Kivan da Pascha, which basically the answer is, what is the din? And one answer, one word, Misgarashas. That in fact, the fact that he said that you're divorced today, even though tomorrow you won't be, since he said it regarding all people at that moment, that's it, that's a krisis, and therefore it is a gerushin. Adkan.